at least 360,000 pesos in cash in a suspected vote-buying case in the city. The money was placed inside envelopes and was in the possession of a woman. She claimed the cash was for the training of election watchers in Malabon and will go to fairs. An investigation on the incident is underway. In Abra, authorities are studying whether to raise the alert level in the province. They are also investigating why over 200 BSKE candidates withdrew from the October 30 race. Reports earlier said several of the bets who bowed out already have relatives in various local posts and fear disqualification. Over in Negros Oriental, a province-wide curfew will be implemented on October 28 and 29. This will be from 10 in the evening until 4 in the morning. Call center agents, healthcare workers, and delivery service riders are exempted from the curfew. Negros Oriental was earlier placed under COMELEC control. Early this year, Governor Roel Degamo and several others were murdered in the province. Congressman Arnie Teves is allegedly the mastermind behind the shootings. In other news, all 136 Filipinos in Gaza are safe and accounted for as skirmishes between Israel and Hamas continue. However, the Foreign Affairs Department said that there are still 3 Filipinos caught in the war zone. 2 of them are a father and child who had to return to a Gaza hospital. Another is a nun who chose to stay in a war-torn city. Philippine Ambassador to Jordan, Wilfredo Santos, told the big story that almost half of the number of Filipinos in Gaza are minors, the youngest being just 18 days old. He urged repatriates to prepare their documents and be ready to go once the Rafah border crossing to Egypt opens. Palestinian spouses of Filipinos will be repatriated as well, but the DFA said they have to shoulder their own airfare.
All the 136 Filipinos are still safe and accounted for. Majority of our nationals in Gaza are actually resident Filipinos who are married to Palestinians. We're still waiting for the signal for the Rafah border crossing to open to allow the safe passage of foreigners, including Filipinos, to exit Gaza to Egypt.
Santos also noted that Filipinos in Gaza have been facing shortages in food, water, and electricity. While humanitarian aid is being delivered to the area, it's not enough for everyone.
We are heartened by the agreement reached by the United States, Egypt, and Israel to allow humanitarian aid to enter Gaza from Egypt. And the trucks bringing this food, medicine, and water is continuing, but of course in limited numbers.
Here are the other stories coming out of the Gaza Strip. The healthcare system in the war-torn area is now completely out of service. That's according to Al Jazeera, citing the Palestinian Health Ministry. That means hospitals in Gaza can no longer operate either due to bombings or a lack of medical supplies and personnel. Since the war broke out, the intensive care units in Gaza City have been struggling. 40 premature babies are now dependent on the dwindling supply of electricity and oil there. Some families in Gaza are wearing identification bracelets to avoid being buried in mass graves. They also use the bracelets in hopes of finding their loved ones if they get killed. So far, over 6,500 Palestinians have died since Israel started its airstrikes against Hamas on October 7. Qatari negotiators are optimistic about the release of more hostages through ongoing talks with Israel and Hamas. The Gulf is actively involved in securing the release of people taken by Hamas in Israel. Recently, 2 elderly Israeli women have been freed by the militant group. Peace mediators say there is greater political willingness from both sides, although logistical challenges remain amid escalating violence in Gaza. In the United States, at least 22 people were killed while up to 60 were wounded in a mass shooting in Maine. Police reported an active shooter on Wednesday night but did not provide further details. They also released photos of the suspect who was seen holding a rifle. We're pausing for a quick break. One News Now will be back with more stories after that. Stay with us. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Denise Tan. ACT Teachers Party List Representative Franz Castro is hitting back. That's after former President Rodrigo Duterte's son recently posed a challenge to her. Marian Enriquez with the details.
Government officials should not be onion-skinned. That's what Davao City Representative Paulo Duterte said after ACT Teachers Party List Representative Franz Castro filed grave threat charges against his father, former President Rodrigo Duterte. The complaint stemmed from statements made by Duterte against Castro in an SMNI interview that aired on October 11. In that TV interview, the former president defended his daughter's confidential funds, going as far as red tagging members of Congress and mentioning Castro's name when he said, quote, "Gusto kong patayin."
Pero iba na to, iba na to. Ako nga, kongresista na ako, nababantaan pa, no? Much more na kayang gawin yan sa mga pangkaraniwang mga mamamayan.
But Congressman Duterte questioned Castro's statement. He said, quote, "While we have the right to file a complaint against anyone in court, public servants should not be onion-skinned and should not make use of this right as a tool to silence critics." Castro said in a statement that the onion-skin doctrine, even in libel cases, does not give license to anyone to issue death threats. She adds that this does not discount or diminish the right of persons to life and safety. And with that, she noted that criticism is different from death threats. In an interview, attorney Harry Roque, former spokesperson of former President Duterte, confirmed that they already know about Castro's complaint. But Roque shrugged off the charges, saying Duterte's camp is not afraid to face it.
Hindi po siya naaabala sa mga ginawa ni Franz Castro. No? At bagamat hindi ko pa nakikita ko ano yung reklamo ni Franz Castro, paalalahan ko lang ko siya no, na bilang dating presidente, ang presidente po ni access sa lahat ng mga intelligence report ng lahat ng mga security agency para magpapatunay kung sino talaga ang tunay na laban ng Republikano.
But in another interview with SMNI just yesterday, former President Duterte again slammed Castro and other House lawmakers. He says he couldn't accept that the House supposedly humiliated his daughter over her request for confidential funds. Duterte again challenged the House to publicize its own budget to make sure that they're not hiding any confidential funds.
Kayong mga congressman, pinagsabihan na sana ninyo kaagad. Nanabi na sana ninyo doon sa kapwa ninyong congressman, kay liberal mo na itong si Franz, sabihin mo kay Secretary Duterte, huwag yan kasi babarayanan. Pinahiya ninyo. Samantala kayo naman dyan nagwawaldas ng pera. Kaya buksan nga natin, tignan nating Franz kung magkano ang nakuha mo sa Kongreso.
The House has yet to address Duterte's latest statements, but they had earlier clarified that they do not have any confidential funds, but only extraordinary expenses for the Congress operations. We also tried to get Vice President Sara Duterte's take on the matter when she visited the Comelec office in Manila earlier today, but she refused to be interviewed. For News 5, Marian Enriquez, we are One News.
We now give you a quick look at today's other top stories. The MMDA is mulling to scrap window hours on major roads. This is in anticipation of heavier traffic during the holiday season. Window hours are the span of time vehicles can ply the roads while the coding scheme is in effect. Currently, motorists are allowed on thoroughfares from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. If the proposal comes to pass, 15 major roads will be covered by the removal of window hours. The Education Department is investigating a public school teacher in Leyte who allegedly went overboard in punishing students. A viral video showed the teacher beating students with a broomstick while they're squatting. Physical punishment is prohibited under the DepEd Child Protection Policy. Consumers can now check if Christmas products in the markets passed screenings. That's by logging on to the website of the Department of Trade and Industry. The DTI is warning against buying substandard products like Christmas lights. The agency recently visited a testing laboratory in Cavite, one of the sites ensuring that products are safe to use. And over 1,000 human resource leaders are in Cebu City for the annual conference of the People Management Association of the Philippines. The participants came from more than 2,000 companies nationwide. The 60th annual PMAP conference is advocating for better opportunities and conditions in the workplace. PMAP is also targeting to address problems of young professionals who don't stay long in their jobs. The conference is happening until Friday. One News Now will be back at 3:15 p.m. Join us again later. I'm Denise Tan. We are One News.